listening to The Betmaker Show. This is the Racebook feature interview about betting 2-year-olds for Friday, July 19th, 2019. And now, live from Las Vegas, the host of The Betmaker Show, Brian Blessing.
All right, folks, Brian Blessing, glad to be here with you. Love talking horse racing, and the summer months are truly spectacular in this industry and the opportunities that abound. Of course, it's a 365 enterprise, but in the summer months, we really start to focus on the 2-year-old races. And you never know on a daily basis where the Kentucky Derby winner is going to show up. He may have raced already. He may not have raced already. We could say she as well, but fillies are generally a long shot proposition for the Kentucky Derby. But how do you approach 2-year-olds when it comes to horse racing? There's so much that's unknown about first-time starters and 2-year-olds specifically. Now, the one thing when you're watching a maiden race for 2-year-olds, you will see countless races where something happens at the gate and a horse gets scratched. The 2-year-olds are so skittish, and they are literally trying to figure out what it is exactly they're supposed to be doing. So it's a challenge for the guys in the gate crew to get your runner in there easily and stay calm before the bell would ring. But it is one of these things. Look at certain trainers who are adept with the 2-year-olds, with the debut races, but there are countless angles specifically with the maidens that you want to take into account. And you can utilize some of these thought processes year-round, even for 3-year-olds making their first start. But for 2-year-olds specifically, one of the biggest opportunities the player has is to identify the new crop of runners from brand new sires that have gone to the breeding shed for the first time. And if you can get ahead of the curve and identify it early, you've got an opportunity to really cash in throughout the summer months before the majority of the betting public catches on. The name runners, in their day, they were great runners, but the ones that are now first crop sires, there are 6 I think we should focus on that have an opportunity to really make a name for themselves. They would be Frosted, Nyquist, Outwork, Spadester, Brody's Cause, and Run Happy. Great runners in their own right, and this is what we see all the time. The sport is in dire need of stars, but when a horse wins the Kentucky Derby, has a great 3-year-old campaign, all of a sudden the horse is gone. Millions and millions of dollars to go to the breeding shed. So it's understandable because there's such big assets that they get them right to the breeding shed and they can make more money there than they would be racing. Some sires are adept at it. Some of these runners, some of these great runners in their own account are terrible sires. But of those 6 I just mentioned, I would think, and they've attracted big money at the yearling sales, these are horses that you'll want to pay attention to. Now, the thing that happens is that the first-time sires in this group of 6, their first crop are usually the very best they ever put out. That doesn't mean they won't have a great year of runners that come in future years. But generally speaking, this would be the year because they're highly thought of on the way in, so they put them with the best mares in their first crop relative to the stud fee. So of the 6 I mentioned, I think several of these are going to produce some spectacular runners and should be something that bears close watching. Now, specific to the 2-year-olds, one angle you want to take into account for first-time starters, if you see a race, say there are 10 horses in the race, and it's 2-year-old babies, and they're all making their debut, it may sound simplistic, but believe me, it matters. Take a look. Which runner has the most workouts? Because it's all about building a foundation and that experience of being professional, learning what it's about to be a racehorse, knowing what that experience is like to go to the starting gate. I'm supposed to go in here, and when the bell rings, I'm supposed to run. Many of them, if they only have a handful of works, they blow the brake and they're hopelessly out of it. That's why schooling is such a big part of if you go to the racetrack, and you'll see the hot walkers bringing horses into the paddock. They're not racing that day, but they bring them onto the track. They take them into the paddock area. They get them to walk around and see the fans and then experience the noise and that different ambiance that's there than what happens for them when they're on the backstretch during the day or working out in the morning when no one is there. For outstanding information and special offerings and promotions, we invite you and encourage you to sign up for our newsletter today simply by going to the website at betmaker.com. So a lot of the 2-year-old races is what's going on between the ears. You got to take a look at the workouts. You want to find the trainers that are very adept with 2-year-olds, that are very adept with first-time starters. And the one other thing I would say to you is where you can make some serious money, because the way the game is to be played, you get a first-time starter 15-1, and all of a sudden he's making a big winning move, and he gets shut off, steady turning for home, and everybody saw it. That horse is going to be 3-1 next time out. It's not the way to play the game, right? You want to get the horse when he's 15-1, not 3-1. So finding those opportunities with the first-time starters is a way to do it. The other thing is, simply put, second-time starters, especially the babies, you have to be willing to draw a line through that first experience. It was a learning curve. It didn't work. But all of a sudden, if you look in the skill sets there in the morning workouts, and the first race was just an abomination, got to be willing to draw a line through it and say, I can see the ability that's here. That first experience didn't go well, and sometimes you'll still get a price the second time out. Sometimes you'll get a horse that was 3-1 for the debut, and the horse blew the brake and had a bad experience. And that's the real way you want to play the game, is if the horse attracted money in that first race, and for whatever reason it didn't go well, all of a sudden now you get 8, 9, 10-1 in the next race. That's where you make your score. So when we talk about money management in sports betting, the same premises exist with horse racing. You want to try to be ahead of the curve, and the 2-year-olds provide that kind of opportunity. Now, the summer months, you've got Saratoga and Del Mar, and we know the big baby races. We know the big summer races that are coming, and everybody moving in forward, looking forward to the Breeders' Cup in the fall. But the real money-making scores are at the summer meets, specifically Saratoga and Del Mar, with the 2-year-old horses. There's real opportunity for you there. It comes down to doing your homework. And the one piece of advice I would give, so often when you're at the track and something bad happens to you and you're ticked and you just grab the form and you get on to the next race, I would just say slow it down, because even if you get scalded by a steward's disqualification or a bad ride from a jockey, the bottom line is, turn that negative into a positive. Too often people just run away from the race that they feel like, oh, I should have had that. But slow down and realize what happened. Take the extra minute to write the horse's name down, to write the race and the date, and then go back and look at the replays later. But what you want to do is you want to track these horses. So even though you got burned, turn that negative into a positive, follow that horse, know the next time that horse is going to be running, and over the course of the long haul, you'll reap rewards for it. So turn the negative into a positive, slow things down a little bit, try to cash some nice tickets. I think some of these first crop sires are going to be really well. Frosted, if you ask me, Frosted is one I would look for those horses to excel, running a route of ground, Brody's Cause as well. But I would look for the Nyquist, Spadester, and Run Happies to be lightning fast out of the gate. So look at those first crop sires, and some people are going to look at it and go, wow, I've never seen that before. Well, if you've done your homework, you'll be ahead of the curve betting against the public, and that's the way to do it. So enjoy the summer racing. Keep tabs on the babies, because they can hit you a home run and make for a really nice score. Well, that's the Betmaker Show for now. We publish multiple times each week. We'd like to thank you for listening, and if you liked what you heard, please take a moment to leave a rating and review, or subscribe to our show feed, or share our show with a friend or two and help us grow the show. We very much appreciate it. Visit us on the web at betmaker.com. And reminder to sign up for the newsletter. Thanks to our engineer, Darren Vandermolen, and producer Mike Gallivan. The Betmaker Show is a production of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated. Betmaker is a registered trademark. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this content without the express written consent of Cardinal Marketing Incorporated is strictly prohibited.
The handicapping and sports odds information contained on this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Please confirm the wagering regulations in your jurisdiction, as they vary from state to state, province to province, and country to country. Using this information to contravene any law or statute is prohibited. The podcast is not associated with, nor is it endorsed by any professional or collegiate league, association, or team. This podcast does not target and is not intended for an audience under the age of 18. If you think that you have a gambling addiction, stop this podcast now and please seek help.
Gambling and betting on sports is a form of entertainment and should be about having a good time. But when done excessively, it may negatively affect other areas of a person's life, such as their physical and mental health, school or work performance, finances, and or interpersonal relationships. At Betmaker.com and The Betmaker Show, we're concerned about the addiction that gambling may cause, and for this reason, we encourage everyone to practice responsible gambling, an approach to gambling that helps you ensure that it remains an enjoyable activity. Here are the main principles of responsible gambling. Don't think of gambling as a way to make money. Always gamble with money that you can afford to lose. Set limits and stick to them. Never chase losses. Don't gamble when you're depressed or upset, and create a healthy balance. Always be aware of how much time you spend gambling or thinking about gambling. And do not allow gambling to cause you to miss out on time with family and friends or time spent on other activities you enjoy. By following these guidelines, gambling can be a good time and great entertainment. If you feel at any time that your gambling is taking away from important areas of your life, is causing you stress or depression, or is leading to financial losses that are beyond your control, please reach out for help. Learn more at responsiblegambling.org.